5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Oh, welcome to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all so much for joining us live tonight. Your humor is not funny there, buddy. But as we start
this.
How do you start the episode? Well,
I didn't even start the fight.
You didn't start the fight?
It was all Hansel there. He and I were having like a little face off, if you will.
Oh.
Both making faces at each other.
So which one are you? Are you Nicholas or are you John?
Yes.
You got to be. If you're either Nick Cage or you're John Travolta. If you're gonna face off.
Well, if I'm being brutally honest, I would rather be Nick Cage because at least then I'm not a Scientologist.
Oh,
that's a win. That is a win. Even if you are a Nicolas Cage, you are still better than a Scientologist. I would agree.
Well, anyway, welcome to Cellar Door Skeptics as we have enter week 1 of pandemic nightmares.
Like legit pandemic nightmares, I guess, like on the record. It's been pretty nightmarish for a while for some people.
But it's definitely for America and Canada.
Eh?
It is specifically not the worst thing ever yet. But we have been trapped in our house, and everybody basically says it's going to continue to get worse. So I would trust the scientists on that side of it. And it's kind of funny because as we start the episode out, we were going to talk about, what have we been doing, in the last couple of weeks. So I've been quarantined at home pretty much from a week from last Friday from work. So we've shut ourselves in. We've had very few visitors to the house. The only time we left the house
just to be home, not like you came into contact with someone.
Yeah, nope. It's just to be home because I took precautions because of my traveling so that I didn't have to get, just in case I had come in contact with it and was a carrier, I didn't want to infect a bunch of other people at work. So I only went into the office once last week for about an hour to do like a mandatory update on a program that was running. So I didn't have a choice. I had to do that. But other than that, I've been working from home all week, which is weird because the kids are home. So it's very hard to work from home with kids, especially the TV will be on and you'll be like, oh, I like that show. Well, I watch that show. And my office sits right right next to the living room. So it's like, you can hear it, you can see it. It's like, ugh. But, so I've been quarantining. We've gone outside for walks with the dog, different things like that, but we haven't, we haven't really done much else than that. Honestly,
absolutely nothing has changed in my life as far as my dailies. I go to work, I come home, I don't go anywhere with my kids besides we go for a walk down the street or something. I've been doing the shopping and anything that's necessary. So literally nothing has changed at all on my end. My wife and the kids have been staying in the house, and I guess the only big thing is that as soon as I get home, it's like full clothes. Everything is off in the washing machine, hand sanitizer, shower, all that kind of stuff to kind of non-hazmat wipe down clean room type thing to keep the outside world outside and the inside world inside. But other than that, it really hadn't been a big change. The Ohio and Michigan, I believe, are both considering doing full on lockdown or have completely.
You have in Ohio. Michigan has not.
You haven't announced it yet. Yeah. So Ohio, it says today said that they non-essential businesses are to be shut down starting tomorrow at midnight. And I am going to work tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to work Tuesday. I guess my boss and other people are going to try to see if we can be considered an essential, but I don't know if that's
like GameStop.
possible.
You're going to be like GameStop. You're going to be on the list with GameStop.
I have no idea what's going to be happening. Or I would rather be with like GameStop than like Hobby Lobby or something, because their explanation was we're not shutting down because they had a vision from God. I don't know. He might have sent this whole thing. But either way, so I'm working tomorrow. I might not work Tuesday. If I do, it'll be because if there's some kind of loophole in whatever the plan or whatever that my industry fits into. So if that's the case, then still nothing will completely change, except for my own personal attempts to keep microbes away.
I mean, in fairness, that's kind of the similar thing with us. My life, the company I work for is a 3PL. We work on transportation and shipping. So to some extent, that in our warehouses, our warehouses serve major vendors, but I wouldn't be surprised because our big warehouse in Dallas, Amazon is, and some of the other larger companies are turning away shipments. And so it's only a matter of time that we're not, A, they're not going to have any room for anything because they're turning away shipments, and B, there's not going to be any work to do because why are you going to pick orders that are now going to be postponed for 20 months, or however long the quarantine is?
Well, you may have to pick stuff off shelves and take it to the dump, because if it's got any kind of expirational material in it, then
it's all metal. It doesn't. We're good there.
God, my life is, my office is quieter, which is great. I have the option to work from home. I just choose not to because I don't really feel much reason to, and I'd prefer to work in the office. The only real upheaval I've had is that my gym is shut down, so I've had to, go to friends and be like, you have equipment. Can I use that to still lift stuff up and put it down? That's like literally the biggest change that I've had. I don't really see a lot of friends. Most of my friends I talk to online, so like you guys. And I know.
I've had a bunch of people tell me it was like, I have lived my life as an introvert for the last 30 years. This is my crowning moment. That's kind of how it feels for some people.
Yeah, but what's funny is I was reading about how the World Health Organization is trying to get people to stop using the phrase social distancing and use the phrase physical distancing. Just to clarify that it's in order to stay at home during the current outbreak. It's not about breaking contact with friends and family. It's just keeping a physical distance to make sure the disease doesn't spread. So basically, it's kind of like an overbearing nun at a dance being like 6 inches at least for Jesus.
Yeah, the governor told me I don't have to call my mother and get yelled at for whatever reason. Oh, yeah, they in Ohio they said they called it like stay at home instead of California had the they had like a weather at home or they had a different name for it, and the governor of Ohio was like, that's too complicated, we can't be doing that. And so they basically just made it stay at home act or whatever it was, so that it's like it's not even remotely inconceivable or conceivable that people would essentially read this incorrectly. I don't know. Either way, everybody's basically been told to stay home unless you're doing essential and super important stuff. I have been finding myself arguing with more and more people online than I had in a while, which I thought I had kind of gotten out of that. But I had a couple good conversations with people who actually threw data out, and I was going to do an update possibly later today about it. But I don't know. It's fun stuff. Every once in a while you get people that are just trolling and they don't for arguments. And then I just said, make an argument. This guy his response usually is just like, you should read this book. As a response to some kind of statement that I made. It's like, it doesn't work. Just like, you should read this book. That's my answer. That's why I said, make an argument. And he made an argument, and then it's easily picked apart. It's wrong. And so it was, but he put numbers in, he proved to everyone that he has a calculator. So it's been I haven't really been engaging much. And then also I had some friends that came out to help me out, which is always fun, because one of the things I always find that online, it seems like you are against 30 other people who are just banging at you from everywhere, and then you can't get anything. So these conversations just browbeat you, and so it's been a little bit more enjoyable lately online.
It's just weird because I've argued less online than I usually do. So like
I had been just staying away, man. I've been posting selfies with my kids and stuff, like just trying to be like less grumpy.
I think the Republicans have less to argue with us about right now because everybody's in panic mode. So, I mean, Biden hasn't officially suspended his campaign, but Bernie has changed his campaign over and is doing coronavirus stuff. So,
$2 million over the weekend. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if Biden's going to be doing the same thing. A lot of local primaries and candidates running for different things, they're all suspending their campaigns anyway. So there's less to argue about, other than people will have to defend Trump. And some of the stuff Trump's doing is very undefendable. So like there's people not coming out of the woodwork as much, except for they will say that Trump is doing the best job he's ever done.
Well, half of the Senate is in
we've
hiding
ever
right
had.
now. Half the Senate is in hiding right now because everybody is sitting in the same room as Rand Paul. So they're all just running for the hills. Mitt Romney hasn't been seen for weeks now. So I don't know. We'll see what happens
And
there.
he's the one that supported, basically the $1,000 a month for everybody. He was the first
He's an early one, yeah.
first one to say it.
Interesting. Sorry, I was just thinking because I know that there's a leadership race for the Canadian Federal Conservative Party after Scheer decided to step down after it was found out he was using party funds to send his kids to private school. Because we all know private school education is the best way to do it. And anyways, there's talk about them possibly suspending their leadership race amidst the pandemic as well, which I mean makes sense.
Yeah. I'm more worried that we're going to get stuck with Trump, at the end of the year, and that they're going to get rid of the election than anything else, know, and you should feel the same way. I mean, what happens with Sear? I mean, if he steps down, are they just going to,
we already did step down. There's an interim leader in place. Yeah.
So then you're stuck with the interim leader. And I don't know if they're good, bad, or
they're just the official opposition. So they can't really do too much so long as the liberals can buddy up with that beautiful, beautiful man, Jagmeet Singh. I want to touch his face. Well, wait, maybe not now. I guess we should avoid touching people's faces right now.
Anybody's face. Good God. It's the weirdest thing is like telling your kids like, okay, thanks for the hug and the kiss, honey. Got it. Thank you. Like that's normal stuff in my house, but it's kind of like, all right, did you wash your hands first?
Yeah.
Did you get cleaned up before coming in Daddy's little personal space bubble? No? Okay, well then you can go get the hell out of here.
We've definitely been like everybody's hands are cracking from washing them so much. That's just a running theme for our household. The littlest, my 2-year-old, she's every time I come home, it doesn't matter what's going on, she's just like, boo, boo. And it's like just holds up a finger with a red spot on it. Like it doesn't matter which hand. There's some place for her just to be like, what do you need me to kiss? Well, I have to go wash my face, wash my hands, change my clothes. I'm gonna put on this gas mask, and then we'll have some kind of interaction. I don't know. It's just it's interesting seeing the small changes and taking note of the micro world that we usually don't really pay a whole lot to, and it definitely makes you wonder why any kind of omnipotent, omniscient God would have left out the fact that this tiny kingdom actually has dominion over us when it comes to most considerations.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is I'm not a huge germaphobe, but there's certain things I'm a big germaphobe about, like bathrooms, public bathrooms. I'm the guy that grabs the extra piece of roll towel or that, and I turn the sinks on with it, and then because I don't want my hands to contaminate the sink, so I use that to turn the sink on if it's not an automatic wash, and then I set it aside. I wash my hands, get a new towel to turn it off, set that aside, get a new towel to dry my hands off, and then get a fourth and fifth towel, one to throw the other ones away, and the other one to open the doorknob. That's me. In my house I don't do that, but
I saw a Hulk Hogan kicking Macho Man Randy Savage in the face thing, and it's like this is how I've been flushing toilets everywhere.
Yeah, and that's true. I don't the same way. Like it's weird because like urinals, if they don't have an auto flush on them, I don't flush them. I'll just admit that right now. I will not touch that now.
Yeah, no, screw it. Somebody will flush it at the end of the day.
Yep.
It's,
I mean, I get
it's
it.
different if you're leaving logs in the pond, but if you're just peeing into a drain.
Yep, that's what I said. So I don't. And somebody said something to me at work the other day, and I was like, yeah, well, you go ahead and if you want to touch it, you're welcome to. But I'm pretty sure based between this pandemic and everything else, I don't want what's on there.
Even if it's at work, and even though HR probably knows what you're talking about, you don't have to actually. Yeah, if you want to touch it, just go on in over there. You need to specify if you want to touch the urinal handle. Make sure.
And I won't, because I had no idea how well people clean. I mean, I've watched people like when I worked at Steelcase and stuff like that. Truck drivers would come in and they would use the restroom and not wash their hands, and it's like, oh my god, what is wrong with you people? Like, who does that? Like, and the worst is if they were like. You're right. And like we had a couple employees that were like that, and we labeled them. Like they go in the bathroom, they come in the office, and everything they touch, we'd immediately like sanitize, because you never knew. I mean, like the majority of the time they probably do wash their hands, but for whatever reason, they didn't feel like it today, and you know which ones they are. And so you're like, screw this. And that's where like women have a leg up on us. They all, I don't think there is very many women that don't wash their hands after they use the restroom, period. Like I just think it's a thing. And like men could take a lesson from that.
At it.
There's far too many people who don't wash their hands after using the bathroom, and those people are the reasons why, as I'm drying my hands, I will use that paper towel to open the door. I will touch. That's the only part that will touch the door as I open it to leave, because I'm like, no!
I will actually say something like when they're walking out, like if they just piss and then just turn and start walking out, and they're like, hey, you gonna wash your hands? Hey, you gonna do that? Like, I don't give a crap. If you're in the toilet, if you're in the stall, and you're working on some fecal chloroforms in there, like, seriously. And if you just start strolling on it, I will say something. And like, either way, it's one of those things that you just, if you're the guy that calls somebody out, just like, no, that's not going to happen. I stopped the line. I'm usually not too worried about these types of things, but I was listening to the statistics. It's 24 hours for coronavirus on cardboard, 48 hours on steel and stainless, and so that's a long time for a surface life for a pathogen. But I stopped the line at Subway and I made them remake me a sandwich. First time I've ever done this in my entire life. The guy had a stainless steel like Hot Topic bracelet thing on. He had the gloves on, but his bracelet was like dragging over my sandwich while he was making it. And I'm like, okay, how many other people's sandwiches? And do you wash that bracelet chain thing that you got? That's like rubbing over the lettuce, like
can I ask why you're eating at Subway during the pandemic? Like, seriously,
because he wants to eat fresh.
This was like a week and a half ago.
Fresh disease. Come on.
It was a little while ago, but still, like I was just like, it was right when it was getting to the point where it was actually becoming part of the national awareness, and I was like, yeah, no, can we not do that? So I was like, dude, you gotta remake that, and you gotta take that bracelet off. And he was like, what are you talking? I was like, look, you just drug your bracelet, your mall bracelet through my it's just like it's like
I would have walked out.
I have a big it's not really like a pet peeve, but it's definitely like this thing where if you wear, like when I watch cooking shows, if the cook or the guy making food has a ring and a watch on while he's making food, it just makes me mad. It just makes me mad. You can't get those clean enough to be doing that. Get that crap out of there when you're cooking in the kitchen. I mean, it's just, you can't, especially if it's not just like a wedding band, like it's got little nooks and crannies for nastiness to be in there. I don't know. I just don't. I don't do that with the food. Take your stuff off, especially now.
Well, yeah, that's very true. I don't know. Well, anyway, that's how Cellar Door Skeptics have been surviving this pandemic. Yeah. I did not overbuy toilet paper. I am commissioned to, when we get down to the last 10 rolls, that if I need to use the restroom, I'll jump in the shower and save the rolls for the women in the house.
So you have a removable shower head that you can turn into a bidet, essentially?
Yep.
There you go.
Actually, yeah.
See? This is just survival tools.
Yep, it is.
My sister got grossed out when I mentioned that, but...
I mean, it is what it is. I'm just saying is, I'm not going to go hard toilet paper, especially when you see the pictures of the old ladies and stuff like that, like trying to buy toilet paper. And I've gone to the store 2 times. I spent a lot of money at the store. I won't lie, but I have not stocked up on every specific one thing. Like I didn't buy 50 boxes of spaghetti. you know. And it's funny, Myers now has signs up saying these are essential items. You get 2 of each. Now nobody's following it, and I'm waiting to see if cashiers are going to. And some of me almost wanted to volunteer to be the guy that I'll just stand there and wear a mask and gloves, and I'll stand there and I'll police these.
So you're
motherfuckers.
me in the toilet. You're me in the bathroom. Like, hey, what?
Well, this lady was doing a shipped order, and she goes up to the thing and takes 8 cartons of eggs out. And I kind of looked at her. She's like, "Well, what? I got 4 families." I was like, "You can only shop for 2 at once."
Shit.
No, I'm shopping for 8. I got to make money somehow. Thanks for holding the door. Mm-hmm.
Chipper, break all the eggs.
Yeah.
One of my coworkers got offended by a comment that I made when he was talking about how he thought it was a smart idea for people to, hoard all the toilet paper, buy it all up, and then resell it. And I was like, no, that's just a sociopathic maneuver to extort people when there's a crisis. Like, how shitty do you have to be? How much, like, how up your own ass do you have to be to think that that's the best thing you can do during a crisis is to go, I can profit off this.
This is
I can
why
just
I think
exploit these people.
This is why I think the people who own StubHub should be put on stakes outside the city they live in.
Well, you know what? There's no Goosefaba. I could totally get into a whole other rant about that.
But like Rage actually did something about that this time. When they released Rage tickets, you had to wait in this queue that vetted you. Mm-hmm. And you had to wait all these hours. That way they couldn't, you just couldn't go in and buy all these tickets.
That was one thing that I remember when we talked about it. They were doing that. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's so expensive," whatever. They become the mainstream, and I know they put a lot of barriers in there to stop the scalpers and stuff. But I mean,
it was exciting. I got tickets. I mean, I still bought 4 tickets, 5 tickets, something like that. Or now we probably won't get to see them, but hopefully I get my money back.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah, this is the year of concerts, and
that's some karma there, man. Like
we have Tool tickets, Rammstein tickets.
Oh, wait, what?
Oh man, I forgot.
Oh yeah, I got Rammstein tickets too. Rage tickets, and Ben Folds 5 tickets, and I almost bought Pumpkins tickets, but I'm glad I did because there's no way they were playing in April. There's no way they're gonna play now, and if they are, I'm not gonna go.
No, that's not a good time to go.
That sucks. That's terrible.
Yeah, and that's just main concerts. I mean, my buddy had probably 10 other local concert type things in Michigan, and that he was going to go to. Because it was funny, because a couple of weeks ago he's like, "Hey, if you don't have to travel and you're going to work from home on Sunday, we can go to this concert." And I was like, "Nah, I'm good, man." He's like, "Really? Well, I guess if you're rethinking it, maybe I should." I was like, "You probably should. Call them and get your money back. Don't go."
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, I get it. We weren't in extreme quarantine. Trump hadn't released his 15-day plan, but still, like, I was like, I'm not going to go do that. That seems silly to me.
Did you see the videos of the spring break kids partying in Florida? Mm-hmm. They were just like at the beach, like drinking out of their little drinks, whatever. It's just like, I don't know. When I was 18, I probably would have done something that ridiculously, obnoxiously stupid. Because when I think back to when I was like 22, and like when I was 22, I would look at myself when I was 18 and say, "You're an idiot." And now, like, I look at myself when I was 25, and I'm like, "You don't know anything." So like, I imagine that there's a bunch of people that are partying in all those areas that are just like, "Yeah, whatever, we don't care."
Yeah.
I look at me 3 days ago and I go, "Oh God, you're an idiot." So
yeah, you left to go to work. You're an idiot.
Well, see, Keith, we've told you a bunch of times, you can't just lick the handle clean on the grocery cart. It doesn't work.
I'm still gonna.
Hey, no, at least you're in Canada, right?
Actually, I had to stop by the Walmart by my place to pick up cat litter, and when I walked in, I had a shopping cart, and there was staff there that was like stopping everybody who was bringing a cart in, and they would like spray it down and wipe it down.
That's good.
And I was like, you know what? I can deal with this. I stepped back, let them do their thing, and I was like, "Thank you. Have a great day."
That's pretty cool. I've been thanking everyone who's been working, making food, doing whatever. It's like, "Thanks for working. I appreciate it." And they're happy. They're like, "Thank you. I appreciate," because basically it's like, can you stand in a place and let a whole bunch of different humans whom you have no idea how safe they are touch things that you will also be touching in a minute?
I know. It makes you think about our ATM cards and things like that. When you go to the store and have to put your card in that reader and then touch the reader
screen,
like I'm sitting here like, shit, this is awful. Like I went and got cash out the other day, and then I disinfected the cash, and then I just paid for groceries, the majority of my groceries that way. So I was like, I don't want to touch that little reader thing, you know.
There was a sign at the local grocery store that I went to earlier when my wife and I were trying to figure out what we wanted for lunch, and they had signs saying, please pay with debit or credit. We would like to not use cash. And I mean that makes sense, right? Because you think about it, how much how much dirt and other substances are on cash, right? Like there's a very small percentage of cash that has absolutely zero trace of drugs on it. So that alone should kind of be indicative that
well, it's just like what I said earlier, it's 24 hours for cardboard. So I mean this disease can just hang out on a $20 bill for
and our money is like borderline plastic. Like our bills are this really thin plastic.
I don't know. I don't remember what they said. Yeah. I don't remember what they said for synthetic materials. I know it was cardboard, and then it went to stainless steel and steel. But I don't know if there was but I would assume that it's somewhere between those two.
Could be. Well, speaking of the coronavirus, I thought tonight, for our first segment, we would actually talk about maybe debunking some fake news, right?
Ooh.
Because I think there's a lot going around right now. A lot. And I thought it would be a good idea because if you hadn't figured out, the president can't seem to stop blaming China for the virus. That's like his big thing. Like, even though he's been told to stop calling it the Chinese virus, he still can't. Even today, he did it. And it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, come on, man. Stop pushing a stereotype for no reason. Now, we could get down that rabbit hole, but I think the bigger thing here is to actually look at debunking different things. So the one thing that I wanted to do, minimum wanted to do for debunking was Live Science had a great article about why the coronavirus did not escape from a lab.
Okay.
Ooh.
Because I think that's one of the bigger things going around is people are going, oh, well, hey, scientists invented it. And if you want to go down the extreme rabbit hole, there's an more extreme rabbit hole where people are saying, hey, essentially scientists are going and creating this to help, screw up the election. I think we talked about that a little bit last week. And other people are saying, hey, the scientists are going to do this to create a new nuclear warfare. And that's all BS. All BS. So I thought the first thing we do is essentially people think it has spread across the globe because somebody in a lab created the virus. So has anybody else heard about this? Is this anything that either of you have had come up in your circles, online circles?
Prior to everybody starting to work, or most of my office starting to work from home, which is another part of the reason why I like going into the office, is because I'm still running into like 3 or 4 people maybe. One of my coworkers, she was telling me that her husband was going to send her this video of proof that it had been manufactured by the government or whatever as a means of population control. And I just looked at her and I was like, to proof what end?
Term here.
Why? What would be the purpose? Like, she goes, well, population control. I'm like, that's dumb. Like, why we can't control a virus? Like, that would be absolutely ridiculous to think that our government, which we can prove is incompetent at times, can control a virus that you need special equipment just to be able to see and modify. Like, to what end? Like, what would be the point? And now that politicians are getting sick too, it's like, hey, do you still think that they would have done something that would have risked them? Put their necks on the line. It's just the conspiracy falls in on itself when you start to realize the number of people that would have had to have been involved and would have to keep this secret.
Or the people that essentially once it's let loose, it's anybody's game.
Well, it's like
once it's out there, it can mutate, all those types of things. Basically,
it's already mutated.
The first thing that I actually mentioned this previously on a show is that I read some things that somebody had said that they had done a sequence, they had looked at this stuff, and they had seen there's a section of the genome that looked like it was copy and pasted, using something like CRISPR. There was like, this couldn't have possibly come in here, and it dropped in. It's too extreme, it's too rigid, it's too harsh for something to have naturally evolved. It's not possible. Therefore, I have definite proof. that this is some kind of man-made thing. They didn't specifically say Wuhan, they didn't specifically say China, US, whatever, but like and it's one of the things that I had read, and I looked at it and I said, I'm gonna look into this guy's back history. And I mentioned it on the show before, this guy was an anti-vaxxer. He was somebody who, as I finally found out what he was doing, all of these types of things. And so, like, spend the time, spend 10 minutes. It's all it took me was 10 minutes. I searched the guy's name who was at the top of the article, and I read a few things, and I clicked on a few things, and I realized that he was one of the top guys in the anti-vaxxer movement. Also, make yourself familiar with some of the movers and shakers of these groups, not so much that you can follow them, but that you can find what they're doing, and you can shut it down before you potentially get caught up in it. Because, I mean, this is tough stuff. Nobody I know knows all of these types of different SARS-CoV-2s and all this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know this stuff, but when I spend some time and I read through, I realize, which scientists are potentially talking truth and which ones are usually trying to use this as kind of an and so that's what it was. Is like later on in the article, it started talking about vaccines and things like that. It's like, okay, this is weird. I need to double check this. And so so double check what you're saying. And I'm guessing this stuff from Nature Medicine that Chris has here is actually going to be some pretty solid evidence as to that this would be a naturally evolved situation, more so than it would be something that's hacked together in Frankenstein's lab.
Yeah, and so the first article was technically from Live Science, right?
Yeah.
But this one is the article that they're referencing, Natural Medicine. Essentially, this article talks about where it kind of came from and how it is essentially a mutation of other viruses and not some chemical gobbledygook that people put together, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing that people don't understand, is that scientists are doing this research. And the sad thing is if we didn't have anti-vaxxers, we probably would not have to have some of this garbage coming out. Like, why are these scientists wasting their time telling you that this was not a man-made thing? They shouldn't have to write a freaking paper about it. But we have to do that because of the fact that there's so many people that believe fake news. I mean, for Christ's sake, we had the president of the United States basically tell us, I don't know, a month and a half ago that he's got it under control. One person, one case isn't a big deal. Don't worry about it.
Have you seen the Fox News thing where they show like Glenn Beck and all the other people basically saying this is like a hoax from the Democratic Party trying to attack President Trump, and then like 6 weeks later, like, this is a serious thing. We need to really make sure. Like it's like if there is a recorded situation with you switching places, like, this is a political thing. And so one of the things that science does really nicely is that it doesn't care what you think. It doesn't care about your ideology. Like, you can't fake science. And that's one thing that's really nice about some of these articles, is that they're using basic data. I mean, they really are using the raw data.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation, is because you're the science guy for the show, right? And so some of this stuff I had a couple questions on, and thought, instead of me doing my research, I'll just use you like an encyclopedia instead.
He's gonna use you.
I'm gonna use you a little bit tonight. But that's okay, because Hanna hasn't been used in a while. So this kind of works out good. We haven't had a science segment, I don't know, probably like a month now. So I'm gonna bring back some of those refreshing things. Anyway, so essentially they talk about the spike proteins that protrude from the surface of the virus.
Yeah.
So my question to you, Hanna, is the spike proteins, is that like a key indicator for mutations inside of a cell?
As far as I know, those are specific like key ways. So like all of these things are designed through their evolutionary process. They literally are self-designed and environmentally designed to fit into a very specific case. So like these types of creatures, I mean, they are a single cell creature. They're specifically designed in their all their the shapes and protrusions and everything to fit into a very specific area. And when they find those things, the things they're looking for, you know what I mean? Like, it's like when you talk about the receptors in your nose and receptors in your tongue, like all the different flavor profiles and things that you can that your body can interact with. It's designed specifically for, or it's evolved specifically for interacting with one particular type of cell or one particular type of a scent or taste or whatever. And so like these viruses, they also have similar key lock sequences. Like they look for a very specific thing, and they're very, very well adapted to either attack it, to assimilate it, to parasitic, be like a parasite in a host situation where they'll click onto it and drain it of all of its life, and then seed their own cells inside. There's all kinds of different things. And these types of cells, as far as I know, when they have a very specific link system like this, they will lock on to exactly what they're trying to find, and they'll ignore everything else. Like white blood cells will look for certain things, but like HIV and so like the HIV virus looks for T cells. It specifically searches and seeks out T cells to infect, and then it'll reproduce inside of those, and that can go back. But it will ignore white blood cells, red blood cells, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And if you click on the link in the article, it actually takes you to some more of that research that you were explaining, right? And there are little keys that they're using to open locks to invade humans. So that's essentially what they're doing. And so this protein is what it's using, to infect humans, which is nice. It's sad they have to create articles to debunk things, but at the same time, it's nice because these are what is going to be used to make vaccines. This is what the scientific community says, okay, hey, we're going to look at these different things. We're going to figure out how they work, and that's how we'll be able to take them apart and re-put them together.
Well, this article can also serve two purposes. So it can also serve to like act as an immunization or an immune system to all that fake news out there, but also like someone who's young, someone who hasn't been fed the BS. They can come to this and they can learn what are the basics for how these things work. Oh, I've learned the basics. I would like a little more information. This can teach people who are interested as well. So it can kind of be a double-edged sword. So it can help inoculate the young, and can also help build the immune system for people like you and I, and those Canadians, if they're interested to grow some of this stuff, like to grow their education and knowledge on this area. So like these articles, a lot of people like they're really difficult to read, but if you just spend the time to give it a minute and learn about what's going on in there, like you really can like inoculate yourself. You can create an immune system to all of the garbage. Like I said a little while ago, like I looked at this and I thought this is way too good to be true. Like it's way too easy in an explanation. And so you suspect things when you learn some of the tricks, some of the keys that the anti-vaxxers like to use for your bias, your cognitive bias, your confirmation bias. Once you recognize those things, it's the same way a virus works. I mean, humans have a huge pile of our own genome that is virus based. So like all of these kinds of things you need to pay attention to.
Yep. And they talk about in this article that there's a couple of possible scenarios for the origin story. One of them was the virus grew in a different animal than was transmitted to another animal with somebody, ate, right? And then, and it doesn't say it has to be some weird animal. I mean, a bat could bite any other animal. And the idea here is because how our DNA is linked together to some aspects, we're all part of very similar kingdoms and different things like that.
It's like 70% or something like that is like 60, 70% of the genome is indistinguishable from almost all other life.
Yeah. And so that's the thing is this virus obviously wasn't created. It could have evolved this way, and then that's how it got transmitted. And everything continues to move at a blazing speed. I mean, evolution in the right environment will create adaptations and evolve states faster based on what circumstances you give it. Again, we started eating meat. What happened when we started cooking food? It did something to help us evolve faster.
Yep.
That's all. The other scenario that they talk about is that the virus could have jumped from an animal host to a human. So we might not have even had to eat the animal. So maybe the bat bit a pig, we ate a pig, it got into us, and then started to evolve. Because that's the funny thing is they're not even saying this virus got into humans, and it could have been dormant for how many years, right? I mean, we have no idea how long this has taken for it to, kind of change and reproduce. They also said it could have jumped like a hook structure.
Okay, so it basically would have jumped from a So they're saying the receptor binding domain similar to the SARS-CoV. So SARS, this severe acute respiratory syndrome, was something I can't believe that's 20 years ago now,
I
man.
know.
But so like in that way, it kind of jumped across species and speciation. I like the idea that you said that it could have been dormant in humans or creatures of many different kinds. Like, so if you think about it, like the way these things works, a lot of times there are all kinds of different creatures and things inside our bodies that are not really doing a whole lot. They're not affecting anything. And then eventually they'll have a mutation that'll take them to that next level. They talk about the sawtooth edge of evolution, meaning that it's not considered a huge jump every single time. It's more of a steady climb up Mount Improbable, but also it is not a steady, smooth, linear scope. It is much more like a bunch of little jumps here and there, jump, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down. And those types of things could be a little tiny jump, but it could have been a very, very profitable jump for that particular species, making its way all over the earth, basically as, a host parasitic situation when it comes to like humans traveling all everywhere. So like you look at seeds propagation. So like if you think about like weed or dandelion seed propagation through animals walking through fields and knocking the seeds through the air, like all of these kinds of things exist in nature. This is just a biological version, but like these tiny little microbes, the bacteria and virus and everything, they're essentially using humans as seeds and spreading their genetic material everywhere in such a way that it's actually becoming a major force to be reckoned with throughout the world. And it's interesting how quickly this type of situation can completely transperse the entire globe if you use the right host species. I mean, humans are the dominant species right now, and so like this virus is like, hey, this is the perfect thing for us to adapt to. They could have adapted to like reindeer or something, but like they're like, no, this one would be the more profitable one. So like nature, it rewards.
You're killing the planet too much. We got to get rid of you.
Kind of. I mean, in all reality, or not so much that you are destroying it too much, is that you guys are really, really, really everywhere right now, and it would benefit us the most. Not so much like considering the planet as like a thing, because this isn't an intelligent species by any means, but like they're like, what's the best way for us to multiply as much as possible? We need to adapt to this one particular creature, and they found a way to do it through all the different types of mutations that exist everywhere. And so like this is an interesting example, but it's also like kind of like a textbook example of how evolution works.
Well, that's just looking at the One Life Science article that we got here. The last line of it, it's saying that chances of such future outbreaks are lower if the virus must first enter the human population and then evolve the pathogenic properties. So, kind of like what you were saying with how it's evolution isn't so much linear as it all of a sudden you've got these these steps going on, and it kind of reminds me of the Richard Lenski E. coli experiment that's been going on for however many years, where all of a sudden one day it was noticed that instead of just the average amount of replications, all of a sudden the bacteria had taken over almost the entire solution, because all of a sudden that particular strain had adapted the ability to eat fructose or digest fructose, which was a predominant component of that line or of that solution, which they previously couldn't do. But all of a sudden, just that one mutation, and bam, that's all it took for it to take off like wildfire. So that's it's beautiful. I mean, it's sad that it's human lives are being lost over this, but it is a perfect demonstration of how evolution, once one little change happens, can suddenly take something that's negligible, not really going on, not making a dent in the world, to all of a sudden everybody's talking about it, everybody knows what it is, things are getting shut down on a global scale, and everybody's affected in some way. It's just like that one little step to being able to infect and spread through the human populations.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It's
science, bitches. It works.
Yeah, it does. It just does. I mean, the anthropomorphic version of beauty isn't always supported in the scientific endeavors. life and the universe and everything. But
Truly fascinating.
It is interesting, and I guarantee you there are some scientists out there who think this is the greatest time to be alive. They think this is the best thing that could have ever happened to them. It's one of the worst things that's happened in a long time, considering the human race. But still, if they do the right thing, they can stop it. But also, it's one of the best things for them to just kind of watch happen, because if they survive, they get to see this data trove that will be used for population management, for pandemic simulation, for everything for years to come. As big as this one is and strong as this one has been, it's gonna be interesting. So like having the right news, having the strong inoculation to that fake news, like this is one of the most important things you can have, because biologically, like we have a bunch of tools. We have the antiseptics, we have the antibacterials, we have the antivirals, we have a whole bunch of really good stuff. Can we deploy all these tools properly and fast enough so that we can essentially create a society that either lives with this disease, as SARS is still around, as a lot of these really H1N1 virus are still around. They happen, they are a pandemic global. They show up here and there, bits and pieces. There are still people in danger every year, but it'll just be a thing that exists. Or can we create a vaccine that will literally remove it from existence, and whether or not the anti-vaxxers and people like that will allow it to come back in, like measles and potentially polio and any of the other things that they're ridiculously out of whack when it comes to later explanations. But like, can we stop this and destroy this, or will this be a thing that we deal with every year? It may not be as strong and as dangerous as it is, but it'll just always be here.
Yeah, and one of the things it reminds me of is Final Fantasy VII. And it's only because I've been playing the remake, or the remake demo, and I've been replaying the original.
Is it good? Please tell me it's good.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, I don't like the first person shooter control thing. Like, I'm more the RPG thing, but I think you could turn it on. I think there's a way to turn that on. And I'll be honest, like, it still does the back and forth thing. It's just more live. It's not like you stand here. You can move around and do all these other things. So
it's like Chrono, or not Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger. Crisis Core was the PSP game that had,
like
so it's like an action RPG, a bunch of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I figured it would be.
So anywho, I think there's a way to chain that off, but that's what it reminds me of. This
really?
Or the Earth for Final Fantasy VII, right? Yeah. It's going back. It's getting back at people robbing it of its resources. Well, that's what this reminds me of. This virus is trying to kill all the humans that are robbing it of the resources. I mean, and I didn't want to make this an environmental episode, but I mean, if you look at it, think about it, right? The environmental impact of people isolating themselves in their house right now is off the charts.
Yeah.
We're seeing a standing level of CO2 carbon reduction right now. That's what's happening right now from China and Italy and a couple of these other countries going into complete lockdown. I don't know. And the funny thing is, before we move on, the funny thing will be is Trump, I guarantee you Trump will be like, look, I isolated everybody, and guess what? I helped save the environment. But don't tell me I'm not an environmentalist, guys. Come on, man.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, he would be the type of person, but that's just because that's the foundation of his personality is how can I make it look like I did this and I'm amazing.
Narcissism.
So we have another link in the description. We're not going to go through it tonight, but there's another link that talks about from the Business Insider that debunks some of the the dumber popular ones that are going around. And I don't really want to get into that. The big thing for me tonight was the discussion of the origin of it, because we talked about it last week of why we should be very careful saying where it comes from and how we're going to talk about it. And, because a lot of people are like, well, you ate a bat, therefore, that's probably got trans. Come on, let's not do that. But there's some other myths.
There's just the thing calling it the China virus and things like that. Like specifically insulting or attaching such a global catastrophe to one group of people. It does have effects, and it will, for long term, it will hurt some people who didn't need to be hurt. That's kind of how I see it. Like, there are people who, they've had a tough enough time dealing with this. This will hurt them. It will hurt other people who aren't even remotely attached to it. by saying something like that. So those kinds of things that the leader of the free world, whatever, is making things more difficult for people. It's not a very humanistic thing to do.
Yep. So the next article I had was from Vox, and this is kind of interesting. And I'll be honest with you, this is kind of more of a casual discussion, right? But they talk about what is one of the lessons we didn't learn from 1918, right? Influenza has not been a pandemic just one time. We're not in some new revolutionary time period where this has happened. We've had many different outbreaks. And so the discussion is what happened? Because if you look at the history a little bit, the history shows they lied to the American public about the pandemic. And I'm not going to get into this whole, I'm not going to use this as a bash Trump segment, even though he did try and deny all this stuff pretty much from the get-go. I don't think he's the only one that did it. So I'm not going to call him out other than right there. Specifically to say
this could be a big government thing, a politics thing, keeping the power thing, a strategy thing. Like we've seen both parties doing a bunch of this stuff. The Republicans a little more so.
Yeah, people dumped stocks when they found out about this and didn't tell anyone. And all I can say is if people don't get prosecuted and go to jail or whatever the crime is for that, there should be a new law written that gets you that, because that's ridiculous. Like if I had known that I was going to lose 15% of my freaking 401k in 2 weeks, then I would have probably put all my stocks into neutral ones too.
Like 2015 or something like that. That's when the law actually went in. There was a recent law that was actually created specifically to say that senators could not use this information to profit. It's a new thing. Like up until that point, it was not illegal for a senator to use information that they had gotten, or from a person in government to use a representative to use the information they had gotten to basically dump or make money in the stock. So essentially, like when Trump tells all of his buddies and pals that something big is coming, and you see a whole bunch of people swing money one way, swing money the other way, or like Dianne Feinstein or any of the other Republicans who are also doing the same thing. Like this is now illegal according to the 2017 act that was created to stop that. But previously to that point, it was not illegal. It was actually considered, this is just a thing that happens. So unfortunately, that's something that we now have to deal with. Is our representatives are saying that we just use our public information to make these decisions. But
Keith, do you have similar laws in Canada on that? I know I'm putting you on the spot, sorry.
I would assume you do.
In terms of politicians like trying to profit.
Yeah, so like a politician knows, hey, there's a pandemic, a global pandemic about to be announced, and so I'm going to dump my money in the stock market and all of the areas that are going to be growing, and then I get to keep all the profits that the recent president has basically said that are his, and then I can retire or whatever. So like as a whole, the reason this is a big issue is because like all the people who you basically put money into the stocks to retire for 30 something 40 something years, and then when you go to retire, you're just unlucky if it happens now. If you're 66 years old right now and you're going to retire and most of your retirement is tied up in stocks and bonds, if you're in a really 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 low risk area where you should be when you're that old, you still lost 30%, 20% at least. Like this is a massive thing. It's happened in 2008 bailout when GM and all of the big three got bailouts, but the workers didn't get bailouts. Their pensions didn't get bailed out. Just the big companies got their bailouts, and so people basically
that's disgusting. Which is frustrating as shit, because like the people who could have had their money reimbursed by that bailout would have been the ones sinking money back into the economy.
Oh yeah. Oh no. It's a whole economic bailout from the low end into the high end, basically, and that actually supports the economy versus trickle down, which we all know is just completely garbage. But my assumption is that there is something in the Canadian law that would essentially say that you can't profit on this. That would be insider trading would be the easiest, quickest way to explain that. And I would say that insider trading is illegal in Canada.
There are insider trading laws.
And tying it to politics is probably just a quick stone's throw, because you guys are at least a little bit more liberal than we are.
That's a great question, actually. Mm.
So one of the things we run into on this is that, like, with this comparison from 1918 to 2020, there were some people apparently who knew a little bit more. And you know, that's also a no-go when it comes to it. But like that kind of information or whatever, comparing all of the types of things. So people that stood to profit and those kinds of things, it's a big deal. I really don't think that essentially selling fear is a smart thing, but like if you stand to gain from that kind of media market manipulation, it's a big deal. It's just one of the things in that Vox article. It says the biggest lesson of the 1918 influenza epidemic, according to John M. Barry, a historian, is that leaders need to tell the truth no matter how hard it is to hear. So Barry, who wrote an influential book on the 1918 pandemic, says that lying about the severity of the crisis in 1918 created more fear, more isolation, and more suffering for everyone. Essentially doing the right thing right out of the gate, regardless of the profitability or trying to protect any kind of long-term economic benefits that you're looking at. Like doing the right thing is really hard. It's really hard. You're saying like, I'm going to do the right thing by telling the truth, and it's going to hurt the country. I'm going to look bad because, let's face it, that's how it works. If you're they always shoot the messenger, right? Like in Sparta, they kick you into the freaking hole. Like, that's how. So, you know, I mean, and that's one of those things. It's like doing the right thing, sacrificing yourself to do for you know the common good. These guys in 1918 did not do that. They did not tell the truth. They did not specify what was the actual situation. And if you look at 2020 right out of the gate, like I mentioned earlier, there are videos. There are clear videos of just about everybody on the radical right. Let's play with that. That essentially said this was a hoax. This is over amplified by the Democrats and the left and whatever. But like the people who have a majority in our country right now, as far as legislative capabilities and executive branch, they said this was not real. They said this was not fake, or this was fake, multiple times, and there's videos of them saying that. So like in 1918, that caused a horrible pile of deaths and pain and misery, and in 2020 it could happen again. It really could, because we got a slower start than a lot of other places who took this seriously right out of the gate. I'm hoping that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that they had issues with, right, was people didn't want to take other people's food. You know, people didn't want to do all these other things. Like we had back in, you know, back when they called it Spanish flu, and I hope they don't try and name this the Chinese flu, and hopefully we're better than that nowadays. But that was one of the big things. They had issues, scared of contracting the virus and this and that. Now, I will say medicine is advanced enough that for the most part, we know
I don't believe they had an FDA in 1918.
No, they didn't. But right now we, for example, though, right now we know that transmitting it is done through certain means, right? There's a certain set of means that transmit it, and the likelihood of survivability between, you know, basically anybody under 50 is very high, right? So if we, you know, like if they do quarantine people and they all of a sudden say, hey, we need people to join the Red Cross, or we need people to do, I hate the Red Cross to some extent, but if we need people to, you know, do these things, I can volunteer if I'm healthy enough, right? And I can go help it because I have less fear. They had too many issues with the Spanish flu, and nobody was doing any actual reporting logically or honestly enough that they could identify what it was doing to kill certain types of people. So everybody was in panic mode. And that's you know, that's the point of this episode to some extent, right? Is that how do we have that conversation where we talk about, hey, stop spreading fear, stop spreading lies. You know, Trump likes to drum up fear. This time, I think he's taking it more seriously. You know, I mean, somebody got identified in the White House. Now we have Senate members going down. This is not some cheap trick thrill. You know, like, and I'll admit, it is the worst thing for somebody like me. I'm an extrovert. I hate being at home. I don't want to stay at home. I have like a couple of leagues I'm in that I like to go do things on a weekly basis. It's hard.
I was bummed when I was notified today that I might have to just keep working. I actually thought I can stay home. I can just work on my house. I can do these things. I don't have to see humans. I will see my 2 tiny little humans that I've created and my wonderful wife, and that will be the extent of my socialization bubble for at least a couple of weeks. That would be wonderful. And so, like, I mean, I understand like the difficulties for the introversion versus extroversion and stuff like that. I personally would not mind it. I definitely would like a slower life for a little while. I am worried about all of the difficulties when it comes to finances. So 1918 also was an area where there were no New Deal support systems, any kind of healthcare for anyone at all. It was all privatized. It was all basically, are you working? Cool. We might keep you alive. Here's some black coal for your lungs. And so in the end, like at this time in the 1918, it was essentially, it was a libertarian paradise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of a place Rand Paul would be happier than 1918 Spanish flu. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. None of this crap is coming from the centralized government. We don't have a centralized FDA. We don't have a centralized there's none of that. So you guys are all responsible for staying healthy and taking care of yourselves. You should have saved money when you had the chance, etc. All of these crazy arguments. And so like now we have all of these insurance systems. We have basic systems that will help protect us, and they're still not completely sufficient for
they're not
a
enough
lot of us.
at all.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the funny thing. It's funny because my sister has always kind of been more conservative for the my family, and she's been posting other things about, well, Bernie's going to do this, and some of these other things, talking about, well, what happens to, there's lots of families we know in church that we're struggling. This is before the coronavirus, right? And then, it's kind of funny because they posted something because, she is essentially an independent business owner. She's a hairstylist. She owns her own business. She does very well at it, right? She doesn't own her own shop, but, she rents a chair in a localized area. She can't cut hair because she's scared that she's going to get sick, right? Now, officially, as a Saturday in Michigan, you can no longer cut hair for anybody. So we're all going to look like, we're all going to be crazy.
It's getting wilder. I told my boss, I said, do I get in trouble if I wear a hat instead of coming in looking like Ted Kaczynski? And he was like, that's fine if you don't send any packages. You can come in looking like the Tanner beard. I will applaud you, sir. You look clean and kempt and under control compared to
I had to shave my beard because of the virus, because beards are
That's what it was. That's what it took. It took a global death
I didn't
pandemic
voluntarily
to get
do
you
this,
to cut
man.
that.
No way. My goal was to have my beard down to my belly, because you got to hide the fat somehow, right?
You wanted that full ZZ top?
Oh yeah, man. I'm all for that stuff. Look, my great uncle had a beard all the way down to the floor. Dead serious. Before he died, he was Catholic.
Jesus.
He rolled it up every day and kept it in, like he had rubber bands, and he rolled it up.
Oh man, was your uncle's name Nad?
No.
Okay, because that's important. Because in a Dr. Seuss book, The 500 Hats of Bartholomew Cubbins, they asked Nad if he knows, and then if he didn't know, they asked the father of Nad. Then they asked the father of the father of Nad, and every one of those guys have longer beards. And the last dude is like holding the end of his beard, chewing on it because it's supposed to be the length of the floor. It's insane. So yeah.
But anyway, so yes, I shaved my beard because of the coronavirus. Would not have done that other than that.
Your sacrifice has been acknowledged. You have been given, I guess, a space to live for the next however long.
Yeah, I was gonna just leave the center of it right here, right, and it was I didn't take a picture, but it was like down to here. It's just like I shaved the sides, and then I came out. I was like, hey, look, is this good enough? No. Like, okay,
hold on. You just went like a Dimebag Darrell with a little bit on the sides. Just a long chin.
And I might just do that next time. I don't know. It's not very work professional, so I probably shouldn't do it. Like, I get away with a beard because beards are a hipster thing now, so you can wear them in professional places.
All the different beard treatment things that you see on Instagram, it makes it.
Yeah, I didn't have to order anything.
Normalized.
I'm lucky because I need more beard oil and beard balm. And I don't have to pay for it now because I shaved it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there was somebody that was giving me a whole bunch of grief about who was it? Oh, it was No, who's the guy that they found in like a Russian like he was loaded up on on tranquilizers in like a Russian
idea.
satellite country. He's the guy that tells he's a philosopher that tells he's Canadian. Come on, Canadian dude. Oh,
We don't
man.
all know each other.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You know this guy.
There's only what, 1 million of you up there?
You
Come
have
on,
to.
man.
You have to know him. He's the guy that tells young men that they need to like basically clean up their houses and.
Oh, Peterson.
Hmm?
Right.
Yeah, Peterson. He was they found him in like a Russian satellite. Anyways, he damn it. I'm trying to remember I lost the entire train of thought on that one. Oh well, continue for 1918 to 2020.
Anyway,
I
so
lost it. I'm going to yell it out halfway through the middle of this conversation.
yeah, really for me, that's all I kind of had for that. And I mean, I get it. All I wanted to do was kind of reference, go back, talk a little bit about, because it is weird, the way our governments continue to do the same dumb things, and it is dangerous lying to people about it. And I'll be honest, if we had said, hey, in 1 month we're going to do a shutdown, or in 3 weeks we're going to do a shutdown, don't everybody go to the stores. Here's your little lottery ticket. This is when you get to go to the store and buy stuff. We'll ensure that we're going to keep packing stuff in for then. Until then, quarantine yourself. If we had done that 2-3 weeks ago, we could have reduced the amount of casualties off the charts. We just could.
What does everybody keep saying? Like, just reduce the curve, right? Like, spread the curve out so that we don't have a spike in the middle flatten the curve that we can't. Our healthcare industry can't handle the load, and so like if you flatten the curve, basically there's a whole bunch of tiny little spikes if you look at it closer, and it won't actually be something that's so taxing that we can't handle it in our system.
Yeah, and I work in logistics, and I'll be honest, if we could have tempered this, there would have been a lot more food to go around. We wouldn't have a toilet paper shortage. We wouldn't have all these other things. But because everybody is in a capitalist system and all this other garbage, it's that's what happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I just don't. I still don't understand the toilet paper shortage. Like I get it that you might not be able to buy any for a while, but like I still don't see how that's like that is the thing.
That frustrates me because it's like that is an item that, like, unless you live in a house with, and this could be just unique to my experience, but in my experience, you really only go through that when you have a lot of women in the house. Right? Like,
yeah, no, I mean, they use it twice as much. But either way, like,
I mean, it happens, regardless, it's not something you buy all the time.
Well, like, even if you do buy it all the time, even if you do buy it all the time, like, why is that the one item that was like everybody's hot list? That was the thing for me, like food, water, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't need to wipe my ass. I'm okay with smelly if that's what I need to, or I got to shower if I need to.
That's kind of what I was just like. I was super surprised that is like the thing. It's like it's almost like.
What about the booze? Who's stockpiling the booze?
That was the first question my wife and I asked when it was. If Ohio shuts down, so like we got the pharmacies, we've got grocery stores. Is the liquor store open? Is that still open? Is that considered essential? And honestly, I will make a case for that is probably one of the things that will keep the people from rioting in the streets. Leaving liquor stores open, leaving the short-term highs that you can get from some of the drugs that are legal in our society. They will help keep some of the chaos at bay.
They might, but they might also cause more issues. They're shutting it down, like Illinois shut it down.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, we will see. Like, if Illinois starts on fire and Ohio doesn't, because Ohio's liquor stores are still open, then we'll have a little bit of an idea of maybe the benefit of some of these things. But like in reality, like you have to leave the people with a few things, and I don't think leaving the Burger King drive-thru open is going to be much more dangerous than leaving the liquor store open.
How dare you?
Might be, might not be.
I don't know. When the king looks at you all weird like this.
How dare you?
Oh. Anyway, so
don't you take my Whoppers away from me, you son of a bitch.
The last article of the night we wanted to talk about was Africa's endangered mountain gorillas are also at risk from the coronavirus. But before we get into that, I got to show something in a minute. I have to show this screen. Just I can't help it. Right? What is going on with Trudeau? Like,
His
I'm
facial
sorry.
hair?
What's this?
You know
What
what?
is this?
He's kind of rocking it. I won't lie.
I mean, like,
He's grown out his facial hair. His wife actually, I think she was
She
tested
has
positive.
been diagnosed. Yes.
Yeah. But no, he started doing the facial hair thing a little while ago. I don't know. I think he's kind of pulling it off. It kind of makes him look, in my opinion, makes him look a little bit more distinguished and gives him less of the classic young boy smooth faced look. I think it. Yeah.
all right, fair enough.
Throw some.
That's not the
gray.
point of this segment. I just had to ask the question because I just was like, as soon as I saw that picture, I was like, what's this?
Throw some gray on a silverback, and you instantly respect him. How's that for a segue?
You know, there you go. I mean, here we ignored the fact that it says on Sunday it's 0 degrees. I mean, that's below freezing in my world. I don't know what your world says.
It's 30.
That's
it's
crazy.
32 degrees Fahrenheit.
I know. I know. I just got to give you shit about it because we're the only country in the world, I swear to God, that refuses to change.
If you showed,
Because it's commie plot.
If you showed most
my
Americans,
whiskey out.
if you showed most Americans that the temperature is going to be 0, 2, 6, and 5, they would start panicking. They really would. Like, there's only one number.
Well, it's so funny. Like, I was joking like a week ago. It was about 0 degrees Fahrenheit here. Like not even a week ago when the quarantine started, and I was like, oh well, at least this will kind of work well with people's desire to not go out anywhere because it was colder than hell and snowing and just an all-around mess.
We had 28 degrees followed by 70 followed by 32 in Ohio. That was a different temperature differential in 3 days.
I know, that's crazy. I left Dallas a week and a half ago, and in Dallas that week it was 50 to 60 degrees all week. I was excited. I was like, I've been down here 2 months. It's the first time it's been this warm. Like, I'm excited. Go home, 30 degrees. And you know, I'm quarantined, right? I have a smoker. I have a grill. I bought extra propane. I bought extra wood and charcoal just because I was like, screw it. Like, all these other people want to buy toilet paper. I'm like, give me some fucking wood and charcoal. I'm going to fucking smoke. I'm going to smoke. That's what I'm going to do. And then
doesn't surprise me.
It's so cold.
Literally
it's so
and
damn cold.
figuratively.
I don't want to sit outside and smoke a ham. Like, I even bought like a half a pig. Not just so you know, I did not buy a half a pig because of the quarantine. I bought a half a pig because I was prepping for summer before this whole virus took off. Like, I ordered this like 2 months ago. You know, same with my cow. I ordered a quarter cow 2 months ago. Not because of the virus, but because, you know, I like to have that type of meat. And so, like, I have all this unsmoked ham. I have all fresh ham because I didn't want to pay them to smoke it when I own a smoker. And I was like, I could smoke it myself, do whatever flavors I want, all sorts. I'm excited, but it's 32 degrees, 40 degrees. It's awful. Like, my smoker will take like 20 hours to cook this crap. And like, I don't want to invest that much in
loaded. Yeah.
And I'm cold, and it's cold outside. I don't want to sit outside.
I've seen some smokers have like auto loaders on them, so they like feed a certain number of pellets in and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm not that rich.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I'm guessing you don't have that that super duper crazy Amazon special.
I do not.
Basically, yeah. Well, I went to a bar after work a few weeks ago with a couple of guys, and they were just like, no, we're gonna just go have a beer, and the company had a smoker out front. They didn't have anything in it. They were just They were just running some smoke, so that like essentially the entire area smelled like someone was cooking something delicious. And that was like a man, the closest thing to like it's like a man sound that I had. It's like you could tell very clearly that the bar was looking to make the area smell good, and that was what they were doing. And they were using just an outside smoker, and they didn't have anything in it. They were just cooking wood chips. It was awesome.
Anyway, long story short, now moving back to your regularly scheduled episode. So Keith brought this article to us, and so I thought I thought this was a good discussion that kind of actually fits the topic. So, Keith, explain a little bit why you brought this and what this article is.
Well, Well, I found this because I was just looking for news to make sure I'm contributing to the show, and I'm doing more than just sitting here making jokes and being a general asshole. So I was looking around, just trying to make sure that I was pulling my weight around here, and I ended up stumbling across this, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So the article, it's from the Canadian news syndicate CTV, and essentially, well, the headline is Africa's endangered mountain gorillas also at risk from coronavirus. Now, actually, I haven't sent you guys this article because I kind of didn't find it in time. It's a supplement to this one. It's the actual science behind it. But basically, so as the coronavirus is infecting more people, the conservationists are worried, or they're warning of the risk to the endangered mountain gorillas because they are susceptible to the COVID-19 virus, just like humans are. However, further down in the article, they even say that just something as simple as a common cold can kill the gorilla because it's something not native in their populations. But because, from the looks of things, I think it's because they're similar enough to us genetically that they're susceptible to similar pathogens. However, because it doesn't normally in their populations, in their little pool of diseases that they're exposed to, they wouldn't really, my guess is that they wouldn't really have the immune response to it to really keep them alive. So basically what's being asked is that, in Rwanda, they're shutting down tourism and research activities in 3 national parks that are home. Yeah, just as a response to reduce the likelihood of transmission. And I mean, these are already really, really, really endangered species. They've already got populations that are 4 digits, so they're in thousands, so they're very, very vulnerable, they're very susceptible, and I mean they're important to their ecosystems. And I mean, why should we want to see gorillas killed off? They're pretty freaking cool. Just don't make eye contact with them at the zoo. They might throw the poop at you. Happened to my
there's that. And like, if you think about it, so like people will look at this story and they'll see like a relatively low population at risk group, and they'll think this is a big deal. But also I read not too long ago that there are Christian missionary groups that are going to indigenous peoples throughout the world that have never been exposed to Western civilization, and they're going there. They're going to try to spread the word of the Lord, and they're trying to go do their stuff, and they're not resisting those spread the word of God impulses right now in this time when these other small groups are also they're in incredibly risk. They're basically they would be incredibly in danger if anybody came towards them. And so like this is another example of like if you treat the gorillas and everything as a group that's be in danger. Also, people doing indigenous missionary trips like that is also incredibly dangerous. Throughout our society, we seem to have this like we don't care about the smaller groups. I would hope that that most people would like think about endangered species or something like that as like being a big deal. And this article does seem to be giving those the gorillas the time that they actually deserve here.
Yeah. Well, that they've actually earned. So that the other article that I was reading from the Science Daily is because there is it's supposed to be a 7-meter rule just to reduce cross-species contamination from humans to the gorillas, but they were finding that in as high as I think 98%
7-meter rule.
Yeah, 7-meter rule. You're not allowed to get within 7 meters. Although I can't imagine why anybody would really feel the need to get that close to an animal that like
could tear your head off.
They could, literally, like they're one like shit. I wish I had the article because I was looking up years ago how much stronger than a human a gorilla is, and I think the average male silverback can bench press about 600 pounds.
Yeah.
For scope.
Yeah.
So just imagine how hard they could hit.
Have you ever seen the images of the ones that have no hair?
Oh, they're just ripped.
Chimpanzees and gorillas, like just looking at them, it's like Arnold would wish to be that. And then the other thing is like, if you've ever seen like a hairless bear, you're like, what kind of nightmare did that come from? That is horrifying.
Have you ever seen a show called The Umbrella Academy?
I haven't, but I know of it.
That was a Netflix show, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
there's a guy that has gorilla genes in it, and that's all I'm
Mhm.
saying. Like you just brought back. Anyway, let's not. I'm sorry, Keith.
That's okay.
Seven
I
meter
never
rule.
pulled the trigger on an Umbrella Academy. Was it any good?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Maybe we'll check it out.
I enjoyed it. You have nothing better to do once you get quarantined, Hannah.
If I do, I might have to go to work when everybody is like oozing out Corona, but we'll see.
Yeah, I doubt you will. There's no. Anyway, moving on.
But
Leaking
yes,
Corona.
so basically they're looking at reducing human contact with these vulnerable creatures because we could put the final nail in the coffin unintentionally simply by exposure. And I mean, as you were saying about the missionary groups who are going to these isolated communities where they've never really made contact, it's like that Indian tribe. They killed that missionary and nobody felt any sympathy for him because they're like, sorry, he was told numerous times not to.
Yeah.
He insisted on going, and he was putting them at risk because he was bringing he could have brought pathogens that would have just killed them because they were just part of his genome or they were just on his person. And it very much reminds me of the whole War of the Worlds thing, where the only reason that we won is because our immune systems had adapted to the bacteria and microbials. And I mean, let's face it. If there's a species out there that can plan for millions of years to invade a planet when it's ripe for the pickings, I don't know why they would be dumb enough to not think about that.
Mm-hmm. I know. That's the old Fermi paradox.
Just baffles the imagination. So basically, people, if you find yourself in Africa going on these tours, back the hell away. I mean, in captivity,
this is safety and just general knowledge. Yeah. You should do all these things.
Yeah, but like 98% of the 53 tours that they watched, so 52 of the 53 tours that were watched in the Science Daily article, they broke that 7-meter rule. Now, by how much is to be determined, but they should not be getting that close. And I mean, again, why the hell would you want to?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
How horrible can people be that they feel the need to get that close to an animal like that could rip it in half just by squeezing. Yeah, and I mean, I know in some of these areas, like tourism is their primary source of income, is what they were saying in this article. It's like the top foreign exchange earner. But I guess in Rwanda, they've prioritized the protection of the gorillas and have even launched a naming ceremony for baby primates. Because apparently when we name something, humans tend to attach themselves to it more and they feel sympathy. Kind of reminds me of Community episode 1 where Jeff Winger, this pencil's name is Jeff. And then he breaks it and Andy goes, "Aw." And he goes, "You felt a response because I ripped your friend in half."
So either that, or if you ask the internet what they want to name something, it'd be Apey McApeface or whatever weird variation of Bodie McBoatface you want to go with. But in the end, humans are very good at anthropomorphizing just about anything and everything. If you give it a couple little bits of humanity, they will give it way more time when it comes to like just basic protections. So like it's like the cute animals versus the ugly animals. So it's like save the lab rats is not the most common, but save the whales and save the dolphins is a little more common. So I don't know. You would think that the gorillas and stuff would be more popular, but in the end, I really don't think most people are aware that these kind of things are transmissible.
Yeah, and
I really don't think most people understand.
I can kind of understand because this was actually something that I had just found out was human transmission. I've never heard of this. Because I mean, I spend all my time around cats, and I get sick, and they don't get it. My wife gets sick, the cats don't get it. So I can understand the little bit of ignorance that people might have. So
your toxoplasmosis is complete.
Yeah, and I mean, you go to the zoo, but the one thing that you don't tend to realize is that they're under veterinary care at the zoo. They do get vaccinations and they do get that exposure to build up that immunity. So, you maybe just appreciate them in that environment as opposed to having to go on a safari where you break the 7-meter rule just because you have to get that perfect shot. Like if you can't get a good enough shot away from 7 meters, so 21 to 25 feet, then maybe get a better camera. You know, think of the animals.
Well, that and then there was the movie Congo, right?
Oh, all right.
Oh man.
No, we're not going to go into Congo. we're moving past that whole thing, and we're going to go into our quick save segment.
Got
And
it.
speaking of animals, I get 2 quick saves tonight because I had
What?
one I'd already have. I get
An
2
update?
because I have 2. I get 2 because Keith
can
didn't
take
have
mine.
one. So this is
Take mine.
Keith's.
I give you permission.
So, and this is only because I keep seeing cute dog pictures and I want to go to these shelters and I want to adopt, but I already own 2 dogs and I really shouldn't go adopt another dog or even foster one because I already own 2. But a lot of animal shelters are giving adoptions up very cheaply. Like Kent County is doing it for $25. If you don't own a dog or a cat, go foster one at least.
Yep.
What are you going to do for 2 weeks if we shut Michigan down? You might as well foster a dog or a cat. And I'll tell you, as much as I hate my dogs sometimes, they are so good companions. And if I drink a little bit, sometimes me and my one dog will have a whole conversation together. So, I mean, like, at least
Are you
I
sure
have
that's
someone-
drinking?
Yeah, definitely. At least we have a conversation. You know, I mean, and they're great for exercise. They force you to go outside. Cats, on the other hand, will ignore you. You feed them, they'll want petting and loving, and they're very good for that. And like, if my wife wasn't allergic to cats, I would have cats. But you know, she's definitely allergic to cats. But my first one is go out and adopt an animal. There is a lot of them that need adoption, and it will keep you company in your time of need.
Well, there's
Look.
an interesting connection to my wife on this. So, like, you're basically showing Bissell, and my wife's company, Buddy's Pet Photography, which is now turned into Happy Dog Pet Photo Studio, is she used to do contract work with Bissell, and she would do all the animals that you see on all Bissell's equipment that they sell. Those are animals that are their employees own. So my wife would come in and she would take photos of all the people's animals, and then they would put them on all their product. It was an awesome thing. And Bissell's big thing that they do charity based is their pet foundation. They have a huge thing that they do every year at downtown GR, and it's an awesome thing. They have a big auction, and everyone should go check that out. But they do multiple times throughout the year. They do empty the Humane Society, empty the cages or whatever, and that there is no cost for adopting animals and stuff like that. It's like you can go in and just adopt all of the creatures that they have. They empty the shelter is what it is, and so
Look at that dog.
It's awesome.
Oh,
Look
So
at
what my-
look at that one matches my other one.
What my wife used to do is she used to go in and take photos of the animals, and so like you would see a lot of these dogs, and it'd
How
be
do you not have more than
a
2
cell phone
dogs? Hannah?
shot.
Like,
I had 2 dogs and a cat, but the cat didn't make the move.
Look.
The
look at this.
I know.
How do you
I know.
not?
So,
if your
but
wife
you look at
photographed that, how did
but-
she not take that home?
But if you look at that, if you go to happydogphotostudio.com, you can see it. But like she used to take photos of that quality of the dogs that were in the shelter, and so that they would have like so like if you look at these images, like a lot of them look like a cell phone shot. Like it looks like something like that dog looks like Snoop Dogg, but like
Hey y'all,
if you it's like what you guys doing? You guys got some weed, yeah? And so like, and that looks like Dr. Dre, but
Come on.
but either way, like these dogs like
Look at that
their
one.
ears are back and they're not super happy. So like, but these are images of dogs that are kind of scared and kind of whatever. So my wife's she used to donate time and photos for animals that would make them look way more, happy and comfortable and whatever. Because if
What's
you
the
get a
name of the
dog,
site?
it's Happy Dog Photo Studio.
That's cute.
I'll find it. I'll just bring it up. There you go.
As well. So like she used to.
Cute.
she basically used to donate her time, and so these are all photos that she's done throughout. But like that's Bella and
Hey,
Hitch.
that looks like a
those are
familiar dog.
those are my two dogs. Like they were given peanut butter and snacks and stuck their tongues out. And but like so she would take a picture of a dog like that was at a shelter. And so like people would turn into a shelter and they would see a dog they would see an image like this and they would say, I can definitely adopt that dog. Or
He looks familiar.
yeah, I took that photo today actually. Or you could, you see the pictures that you were sharing a few minutes ago that had, a dog that had its ears back and it was kind of scared and it's kind of like that image doesn't help a dog get adopted. And so she was donating her photos, her acumen to help these dogs get adopted. And Bissell used to be a regular contract for her company. And it was awesome because she would do like 8 hours of cat photos, dude. If you want to lose your mind, that's a window that you go down right there, trying to get cats to pose for you.
Like this one.
Yeah.
That one's an angry cat.
There's a black one in here somewhere that has like vampire fangs. That's my favorite. It's the coolest.
Cute.
I want that dog. Who's that?
Like, there's a bunch of them.
My dog.
It's like, Bissell does some really great stuff, and a lot of these pictures were associated with a lot of that kind of stuff. Like that guy right there. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, that's cute.
What did you ask me to do? Yeah, we're not going to do that.
I'm sorry.
There's your black cat.
No, that's not it. There's one in here. I don't know if it's still on the site or what, but like it's got like it's just jet black with vampire fangs. But you may have to dive deep into the Happy Dog Photo Studio. But either way, that's the new place in Ohio. We have a photo studio built into my house. That's awesome.
Damn it! That's stinking cute. God damn it! Well, I know where I'm going to spend the next few hours of my night.
There you go. So that was
that's
my first book day, and I only say that because I love animals quite a bit. Honestly, it's a really hard thing not to like animals, in my opinion. You don't have to always get an animal, but it's kind of hard not to love them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But for my other quick save, the one I was actually going to share until I got very sad and saw dog photos.
You heard Sarah McLachlan saying,
Yes, I did. This, my friends, is what I spend my quarantine time.
If you could not possibly take it to a deeper end and different.
I did. I've been playing Doom.
You segued sad puppies to zombies being cut in half with hammers.
Demons being cut in half. There's a difference.
Demons.
The best part was my kids and I had to have a conversation about why there's demons on Earth and why they want to kill humans. Like, we had that conversation today.
I mean, have you met demons? It's kind of their bread and butter is killing humans.
My daughter will tell you that dragons are awesome and demons are not always bad. She'll tell you that.
She's probably watched a lot of Supernatural then.
No. No. I don't watch Supernatural in my house. But
some of these sorry, I'm still going through these pictures on the Happy Dog Photo Studio.
You're missing out on people getting their heads ripped out.
Yeah,
I mean, like, these are glory kills.
It's when you rock it out, like, and I will give it where it's due. Like the Doom stuff that I've seen and the things that I've been hearing people talk about, it's just like Doom is doing the antithesis of what modern gaming has been doing when it becomes more like Twitch gaming, Twitch movements, and like hyper. Have you spent 17,000 hours to try to maximize your capabilities and skills in this game? Like the Doom game's kind of like, hey, do you want to have some fun and kind of just do whatever and like feel like a superhero for a while? Like, you know what I mean? Like I think that's kind of what Doom's looking for. Is like they kind of want to have that going on, as opposed to like the old back in the day when I used to see like Unreal or Quake, when like it was like maximizing the pixel loading of your machine, that like whether or not you could get the headshot that you were supposed to get. Like this game seems way more fun, violent by any means. If anybody doesn't like that kind of stuff, you're not gonna like any of the stuff that we're seeing right now.
I will tell you,
ribcage splits.
I will tell you, this game
Head
is
knights.
even harder than the last one. The last one was pretty crazy. I haven't gotten to this part yet. But this game, like usually I try and play games on the second to hardest level to start out with. That's just my thing. And I have to compete with my son a little bit because that's his thing too.
Oh man.
This game, once you get past level 1, is almost impossible on it. Like 3 hits, you're dead. So if the guy shoots 3 missiles at you and all 3 land, you're dead. It's done. It's over. They took the difficulty level and just like raised it through the roof. Like they have these things called Slayer pits or Slayer things. And they're like side challenges where they throw a bunch of enemies at you. The first one that they have in the whole game, I think, is in like at the second level. And we're not gonna watch, but it's in the second level, right? And the problem that they have with it, seriously, is like you go on there and I probably killed 600 of these demons to beat this, and they have this new demon that has these like claws, and he goes like this, and if he hits you, you're dead. It's an instant kill. No matter if you're at full health, over full health, you're dead. It's insane.
Bring back to memory like the Contra stuff where it's like any mistake. So like what Doom it sounds like it's doing is like they have like the game where like if you want to feel like a superhero, you can get like the middle difficulty, and then if you really want to challenge yourself, you can go to the upper levels. You can go to the upper echelon and then like get it. I mean, it's got a little bit for everybody.
A little bit.
So yeah, my quick save is it's just a simple image, real simple thing, something that's not going to happen. I can almost guarantee it. But unfortunately, this is something that I had actually been waiting for a while now. There's been a remastering of the epic and incredible movie Akira. Way back in the day when anime went from kids movies to big kid movies. This movie is probably that, and Cowboy Bebop and a couple of other series are what solidified my attention to the Japanese anime. And the movie Akira was going to be remastered for an IMAX experience, which sounded amazing until they shut the entire planet down. So this says 4/3/2020. It's not going to happen, but one day we might see these on an IMAX screen, and you can.
I kind of wish they would make another Akira movie or remake this one. Maybe not live action. I like the anime, and actually, I just watched this like about a year ago. Not the IMAX version, but I did rewatch this movie about a year ago with my kid.
I've got the Blu-ray, the most recent edition, and this is just one of those movies that like if you really appreciate, so like if you really appreciate animation, so like what if you're gonna watch an animation movie, if you look at something that's got a ton of tiny little things happening and the animation is very fluid, so if you look at movies and see like, you know, the frame rate where it's like it's jumpy and there's not a whole lot of flowing happening, but if you watch something that like if you watch an older Disney movie, you'll see like a level of fluid motion, and you'll see like an attention to detail on the small tiny details that Akira does for 2 hours that you really won't see anymore nowadays. And it's like it's a really big deal when you see like that kind of high quality animation these days. The only place you really see it is in studio. What is it? The High Castle Studio Ghibli guys. Like those are the guys. Those are really the only ones that if you watch it, every single thing in that movie has a clean, free flow. And Akira was one of those ones, but they did it for adults. They did it for like violent and bloody. And it you know, sometimes you just need to give the adults what they're looking for. I mean, we're mushing faces all over the place in Doom. So
there you go. And I like Akira. I'll be honest. Like that's
good.
probably not my favorite anime, but it's up there. Like I do like that one. I like Death Note a little bit more, but it's a different story aspect than Akira is, and Akira feels more like
it's a 2 hour.
Recall.
Like Akira is like a movie, movie. You know what I mean? It's its own thing completely and totally. And then there's like the series-based shows. Like Akira is like, you don't know anything about it. You go in and watch it for 2 hours. You get the entire story, and you get slapped in the face by a giant crazy whatever.
Oh, all right then.
Oh, fair enough. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us on another Cellar Door Skeptics. Obviously, we can continue these every week because we're going to probably all be quarantined. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll do multiple recordings a week. I have no idea. I don't. I just know that Hannah's got some pepper plants. I'm kind of excited for them. I wish they would grow fast enough that we could have him eat different ones on the show. And
Every
it'll be
week.
like a special Patreon thing or something like that. I don't know.
I want to do one for charity. I want to do.
You're gonna have to like send
wanna eat
each
it.
of us a pepper so that we
I
all
would like to do
you're gonna have
that.
to send us like a package of peppers. But if you're gonna send me some, can you do me a favor though? Like, don't just send me one of each. Send me like 2 or 3 of each. Not
Well,
just so I have them for cooking. Like,
see
if
what
you're
the
gonna
harvest
grow
is.
them.
Well, first off, we're not gonna eat a bunch of super hots. We're gonna eat one, and then we're gonna be in pain for like 2 days.
Yeah, I
So,
know,
like-
but I want more for my cooking.
And so we'll have a whole bunch of extras that you can make for like food.
There you go. So when that ever comes about, it'll be a big thing for Cellar Door Skeptics. Anyway, thank you all so much again for joining us tonight. It's been an amazing episode. We'll be back next week with more Cellar Door Skeptics. Until then, I don't know. Stay quarantined. Don't infect anybody, and hopefully soon you'll be able to rejoin society. Thank you all, and have an amazing night.
Bye.